wonderful to meet you, Halla, and sitting there, I was so moved by what you were saying, because you were talking about leadership from a place of love, from an inner to an outer. And yet, that isn't what we inherited as a worldview, is it?
Certainly not.
So perhaps we can begin our conversation with that inheritance, because we inherited, all of us, a worldview of materialism and separation. And it was based on the mechanistic science of the 19th century. But that science had resulted in the technologies that drove the Industrial Revolution. So what happened was, because of the power of the Industrial Revolution, that mechanistic science became the worldview that drove our economics, that our education, our governance, our sense of being together, and our well-being, our healthcare. And so that continued, and that's continued essentially to this day, even though the science has moved on over 100 years. That view of the world as a great machine, with its hierarchies, exploitations, all of it has continued. And so your leadership, almost in the face of that, is even more compassionate and courageous. Crazy, some might say, but I would not say
crazy is the new good.
But I think what's really important now is that leaders such as yourself are arising at the same time that that science is being overthrown, is being overturned. And instead of a worldview of separation, we're actually discovering at the leading edge of science at all scales of existence and across many, many different fields of research, that instead our entire universe meaningfully exists and purposefully evolves as a unified reality, to the extent that in 2022 the Nobel Prize for Physics was given for universal wholeness. And the Nobel is only given for settled science, so we can ground ourselves in that now. But it seems to me that whereas the old paradigm had no context, it had no framing for our inner wisdom, our self-awareness, that inner to outerness that you spoke of, this emergent understanding, which converges with wisdom teachings of all traditions, it gives us the ground to stand on. It's got our back in the sense of all that you do. So I'd like to ask two questions, if I might. The first is, without that, how challenging has it been to do all that you are doing and bringing out into the world? And with that, what difference does it make?
What a beautiful framing, Jude, and how lovely it is to meet you. I feel like we already know each other, as often happens when you meet people who are traveling in similar wavelengths. I'll get a little personal here, but because I think this is often what moves people. When I came into corporate America early in my career, the only option I had, if I wanted to belong and have a successful career, was to play the game as it had been designed. That was sort of the key to success. And I played that game sort of okay, because I liked sports, and I had played sports, and I could speak about sports. That was important. You know, this is hopefully not going to make a headline, but I could drink better than many of the men I worked with. And still remember what they told me the day after, which was inner wisdom of sorts. But I had to sort of flex my muscles as a woman trying to be a man. And that was the only option in corporate America, or I would not have had any success. And I came to a point in my life where that felt like not enough. Like that tired me. That just didn't feel like I worked for M&M's, I worked for Pepsi, I was successful, I had promotions. And I felt like pushing more sugared products was just not enough purpose for me. And yet I learned a lot of good things there and realized the power of the private sector. So I've never given up on the idea that business can be a force for good, just like government can be a force for good, just like every one of us can be a force for good. But I started my journey of trying to figure that out. And so fast forward to you know, I've tried so many different things personally because I don't think it's always easy to find that, or to do this inner developmental work. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say I think that is life's work, to work on ourselves, and that's the most important work and the purpose of life, to develop that inner space enough so that you can make a difference in the outer space. And but yet nobody teaches it to you, and you certainly don't learn it in your MBA. That I can tell you. So I learned it the hard way, but I have, through a lot of good teachers and through a lot of difficult life experiences, a lot of setbacks and violence of various sorts that we all experience from life, learned to prioritize that work, and it's made me more powerful, but I still think I have so much more work to do. So I don't see me as a done product or anyone else. I think that's what life is all about, to evolve, to become, to realize that we're just one little piece of the whole magnificent universe that we belong to. And yet each one of those little drops in that ocean of universe that we live in matters and has a meaning, and that when we find meaning with our lives, that we become so much more powerful, and when we collaborate, we become so much more impactful, and when we work from a set of principles, we feel so much less lost. So this is just sharing that it's been a journey for me, and I think it is a journey for everyone, but it's a journey worth taking, and I definitely don't think anything I've done has been, except for maybe giving birth to my 2 wonderful children, has been more worth it in my life than doing this work. But I also want to recognize, and I think, Jude, this is important for us to say, that in the world we live in, it's very hard to hold on to this. Sure. Our young people, 13 to 16-year-olds today, spend 9 hours on social media per day, 5 of them, 9 hours on screen, 5 on social media, and get 223 notifications in their phone a day. 13 to 16-year-olds average is across most countries that are that we know of. And this is just, how are you going to hold on to your sanity, your inner peace? This is robbing us of our inner peace, our ability to connect with ourselves, with others, with nature, with play, with purpose, and it's made us feel incredibly lost. Also us older, we are terrible role models for the young when it comes to what this has given us much connectivity, and was supposed to help us learn and do faster things, but we've lost a lot. As a matter of fact, I think maybe the biggest problem we are facing, including myself, is this constant connectivity and this constant running is making it very difficult, and the negativity that's in that space and is accelerated by algorithm designed to spread fear, violence, and hate faster than love, joy, and purpose. The design of these systems that have been created is actually designed to take us away from the fact that I think we know when we sit in ourselves, is there, that we are one, that there's no difference between global south and global north, that we have taken advantage of a lot of people in order to build so-called wealth. And well-being is not going to come to any of us at the end of our lives because we have so much money. But we need economies to function, so we need to work together on not seeing the economic development and the personal development and the planetary development as a separate journeys. It's all one journey.
Absolutely, and I think the importance for me and the significance of this new understanding, which is ancient, of course, because it is convergent with indigenous wisdom. Absolutely. And Kate Raworth, who was with us yesterday virtually, showed this beautiful sort of
donut economics,
newing economies. But what this is showing us essentially is a universe that is essentially whole, as you say, meaningful, purposeful, living in that sense and its wholeness. But I would suggest also the innate interdependence of the entire universe at every scale is actually showing us that it's a universe founded on love. And I take your point.
And abundance.
And abundance and diversity.
The scarcity thinking was invented by economics.
But the economics were driven from a worldview of separation. So as you say, I think what the Wellbeing Economy Forum is doing, and a lot of work that I'm involved with too, is how do we if this is is this, as my friend Joni Carley, who's here, says, this is not an aspiration, unity is not an aspiration, this is our existential reality. What does that mean in terms of transformation of those systems that have brought us to this point? And obviously the well-being economy is part of that, but there's so much more that across the piece, and you say, Halla, about education, how we educate our children, and one really key thing that you are so passionate about is giving young people agency and voice. And so I'm sort of starting to talk about learning ecosystems rather than the old means of education, to invite everybody in, because we're all learners in this time. None of us really know the answers or the outcome, but we can come together and learn from each other. So I'd just love your reflections on that.
Well, I think that's exactly why this exists, this forum, and why we're here, and why we might be at different points. We might be coming from different stakeholder groups in the system, and we might be at a different point of development ourselves, which is perfectly okay and normal. We should hopefully, I think collaboration and courage are really key words for us to, I think,
absolutely
think about. One of, I want to share again a story, just because I've seen how this happens, that I thought worked very well for us. So when I was leading the B team, I was increasingly trying to build these bridges between different efforts that were essentially all trying to work towards the same goal, but they had different names and brands for it, and were quite territorial and separationist in their approach, often, I thought. So I built something that I called Team Courage. And I just built it on the run somewhere at one of those climate conferences. And I called it Team Courage, and people said, what is Team Courage? Who runs Team Courage? And I said, Team Courage is us. No one runs it. It's a decision we can make. Are you in? And people would be like, what? And over 3 days in Dubai, Team Courage went from 3 people having a drink to 3,000 people signing a joint letter from the faith communities, from business community, from governments, from the young leaders. But it took a lot of years of building bridges before Team Courage counted 3,000 people who wrote a joint letter and impacted the outcome of that global conference. So I think that kind of thinking, that kind of framing, team humanity is another approach I used at another event. So I don't know that I have the answers, but it is coming together in a different way. And one way that to support that I did with the B team and many of our partners and supporters, and I've now done that twice, is I took a group of 50 people a couple of years ago to Plum Village. Was founded by Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese monk who had to leave his home country because he fought for peace. Think about that. He was exiled for fighting for peace, or for working for peace. But I took 50 people, from B-team leaders running big companies to pension funds to partners that we work with, to my own staff, to the staff of Christiana Figueres, who led the Paris Agreement. And we went to Plum Village for a week and spent a lot of time in silence and a lot of time in nature and a lot of time in conversations, connecting with ourselves, each other in a very different way. I just think we were all transformed. This was the second time that I did this, but all of us had different perspectives, but all of us, I remember one of the CEOs I brought there, he actually thought I was crazy. But that was not the first time he thought I was crazy. He's like, what are you doing? He runs a big global company. But thankfully, his wife was a yoga teacher, is a yoga teacher. And she said, oh, give it a chance, give it a try. And the first day he's like, you are killing me, Halla, you are killing me. I'm like, no, I'm actually trying to bring you alive. And he was just so angry the first day that I brought him there. And where's the connectivity? There's no connectivity here. But he did bring his guitar. And on day 2, he was singing with the sisters and the brothers. And he was like having late night voyages with his wife, like in love with her in a way that hopefully he always was. But it was transformational on so many levels for him to participate in something like this. So I would say coming together more holistically within the systems, across the generations, the genders, the stakeholders, the world, and coming together in places that allow us to connect differently is incredibly important. And I hope that something that this can advance to, that this will become truly collaborative, that next year I can bring some of the B-team leaders here. I didn't have enough notice to do that, and that we can build this forum here to be a place of connectivity across all of the different dimensions that we need. And then Iceland might serve its purpose in the world to be, I think, an entrepreneurial, creative, crazy even catalyst for a better world.
I love that. I love that. There's two more things I'd love to ask you. Do it. I love that it's a dance, isn't it? Because sometimes we think of being or doing, and I feel that what this is showing us and what you've been showing us is the being and the doing, the inner and the outer. And this new understanding of this unitive understanding and its unitive narrative encourages us to do that. And the final thing I would love to say to you is that some years ago, someone came up to someone that I really honoured, a woman called Barbara Marks Hubbard. And Barbara and I had been in conversation, and this wonderful lady came up and she said, "You're my role models." And then she said, "No, you're not. You're my soul models." And it seems to me that you are an amazing soul model for all of us, but we're all soul models. If we step into our humility, if we step into our unknowingness, if we step into our curiosity, if we step into our vulnerability, if we step into the love that is the foundation of our being, then we can all be soul models for a better world. So thank you.
Thank you, Jude. I have to add something here. You're very kind, and I know we're probably not managing time well. I tend to be known for that. I want to say something that's very important, because for some people, this being a soul model or talking about some of the things we're talking about is hard. And I worked with a lot of people that's the case. So all I will say, you don't even need to buy into any of that if that's hard on you. Just give yourself the opportunity or the chance to truly be with yourself and nature, and somewhere, somehow, with people, and it will. You will just do inner peace, if doing is all you can do. Just do inner peace once, and take the temperature of how you feel at the end of it.
Exactly.
And I can promise it delivers.
Thank you, Jude.